Welcome to the Zencast. My name is Dale Pickles. I'm the Managing Director of B Squared and the host of the Zencast, the podcast for special educational needs and disability. Each week on the podcast, we'll be talking about a different topic in the world of SEND to improve our knowledge, to provide support to professionals working in schools, to empower parents, and to just raise awareness. In this episode, we were discussing screens, meltdowns and power struggles. And I discussed this with my guest, Dr. Daniel Weisberg. Dr. Daniel Weisberg is a consultant clinical psychologist and the managing director of Cape Psychology, an award-winning independent clinical psychology service for children, adolescents and young people. Daniel has specialised in paediatric neuropsychology, a highly specialist area of clinical psychology that aims to understand how children's brains relate to their learning, behaviour and development. The Zencast is created and produced by us here at B Squared, and alongside this podcast we also run online CPD or training sessions called Zencast Sessions. And if you go to the Zencast website, you'll see a range of over 150 training sessions, often featuring our amazing podcast guests. And we also run free SEND briefings twice a year so you can keep up to date with the changes in the world of SEND. You can find out more about our training sessions and our free SEND briefing by going to the Zencast website. Now, let's get on with that podcast. In this week's show, we're discussing screens, meltdowns and power struggles. My guest is Dr. Daniel Weisberg. Dr. Daniel Weisberg is a consultant clinical psychologist and the managing director of Cape Psychology, an award-winning independent clinical psychology service for children, adolescents and young people. Daniel has specialised in paediatric neuropsychology, a highly specialised area of clinical psychology that aims to understand how children's brains relate to their learning, behaviour and development. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me and for that lovely introduction.
It's always fun making sure you're not going to say one of those words completely and utterly wrong. It's the bit I get stressed about is reading the actual bit I've written down. Everything else is just go as you go. That's the bit I have to get right.
Well, it was perfect from my side.
Okay, so screen time. That's what we're discussing today. And it's one of those subjects where everyone has an opinion. Most of us don't know the impact. Decisions are often based on our feelings or from the pressure from the media. If you also throw in the concept of screens being predictable and calming for neurodivergent individuals, it adds another layer of complexity into the conversation. For me personally, interactive screen time is better than just scrolling or consuming media. So, is screen time good? Is it bad? What's really going on?
Yeah, what a great question. And so as you said before, I am a clinical psychologist. And part of our job is to understand stress and children's emotions and emotional well-being. We see children and their families come to us with a whole range of difficulties, but the one thing that brings them all together, that makes everything almost identical, is screens. Every single family has a relationship with screens that works for them or perhaps doesn't work for them, and how to manage that in the best way is something that we talk about all the time. And I get asked this exact question: Is screen time good? Should I stop screens? Should I do more screens? What should we do? My view here is that the way that we frame just that whole question puts it into this binary good, bad. So screen time is good, screen time is bad, and you have to choose a camp. And you're right, the media in inverted commas, the messages that we get, the information that we're told, everything that is ever reported about screens is usually equated to screen time is bad.
I love about that. What I love about that bit is generally we read that on a screen, on a small screen in our hand, going, "Oh yes, it's so bad." Anyway, let's carry on.
Yep. But I think everyone listening will be sat nodding along, going, "Yep, that's exactly the case." And so we have to. I think we have to reframe that whole discussion, because to me, it's a bit like saying, "Is food time good or bad?" Is it? Why? What the question should be: why are you eating? Are you eating because you're hungry? Are you bored? Are you just a bit restless? Do you need something? And so I think we should be doing exactly the same with a screen. So rather than going, how many minutes are you watching a screen? We should be saying, what's the purpose of watching the screen? Why are you actually doing that? And that to me helps us reframe this whole discussion to make it much more relevant to each individual's family's circumstances.
My head's going there because in reality, what people are coming to you going, screen time is the problem.
Yep.
Thinking it's the cause, but in reality, it's the effect.
Yes, exactly the case. Now, there are several things that we have to consider here. Do you know, if you look at a graph, for example, and you sometimes see a graph showing that one axis versus another axis shows that there's a single relationship here that says when something increases, another thing decreases. For example, if you're on a screen longer, your mood goes down. Well, actually, when you think about screens is like an N-shaped curve, a bit like a rainbow if you look at it, where almost no screens is harmful, potentially because that's how most children are interacting with each other. So if you're not on it at all, there's no social interaction. All the way at the other end, but on the other side of the N, well, that's too much screen, so that's far too overwhelming, far too stimulating, far too challenging for each individual child to be able to manage. Some do, but not everybody. It's actually that middle point where there is enough screens that makes it useful. It's not been overstimulating. It's not affecting other areas of your life, but it has that function. And it's that point that we need to try to identify. Sorry.
I'm going to say it's interesting. Also, there's that assumption that how young people, the impact of these screen time on a young person compared to us, we assume the impact is the same. But I think it was, is it Children of Our Time was one of those programs where it looks at a group of children as they grow up. And they did an episode on young people and screen time. I don't know if you saw this.
Not this specific one, but I know the program and the idea.
And it was really, because they literally had these experts telling us exactly what's going to happen. And every single time they got it completely wrong.
Wow.
Because it was like, for us growing up without technology, this is too stimulating. And they had somebody who played really intense, I think it was Call of Duty or something, really intense game, full on competition till midnight. And he said, right, so that's going to be too intense. He won't be able to shut off. He'll have and this young person was asleep by 12:30, 7 hours of really deep, happy sleep, and woke up. And they're like, and everything they said, all their assumptions were wrong. And it's kind of because we've adapted to this stuff, whereas they've grown up with this stuff, and that will have an impact.
I completely agree. I think we as adults, and I don't know if it's a British thing, if it's just a human thing, we just assume that our experiences are correct. So what we have gone through is the way that it should be, and the world now is so different. In one generation, it is so different. So the natural assumption is that, well, we got it right, the next generation are getting it wrong, and we apply the same thing with screens. Whereas actually, the example that you used of that young man who's gaming is a perfect demonstration. The automatic assumption here is that he's on it for hours and hours and hours. That cannot be good at all. Well, my perspective from a psychological point of view is, yes, I want to think about the function of that behaviour, but also what are the skills necessary in order to achieve at that level. Problem solving, creative thinking, working under pressure, working within a team, communication. All of these are skills that come across in games. Even when schools send out messages like Times Table Rockstars, for example, that's a common gaming platform for, I can't remember a couple of other names. Other software is available. I should probably put that out there. But I know that my kids use Times Table Rockstars. But we just sit there at home thinking, oh, another screen. We're trying to get them off it, yet the school are pushing them onto it. Whereas actually, it's done wonders for my kids' times tables, far more than just recitals and repetition ever did for us.
And I think that timetable Rockstar, I think part of the reason it's good, I think when you finish it, you get told immediately whether you're right or wrong. And it makes a little bit of a song and dance about it. Yeah, and there's a going up to the different levels and all that sort of stuff. So it's that reward, it's that instant gratification. And I think when we go back to the cause and effect is, why are they spending that time on the screen? Is it because they're getting some gratification, they're getting some reward, they're getting some attention, this is getting in that gaming rather than just consuming media where it's that interactive part. Are they getting confirmation that what they're doing is good? Are they getting confirmation it's right?
Yeah.
If you take that away, does any of that happen?
So the reward side is one of the most powerful mechanisms in screens. You're absolutely right. It's all about dopamine and what dopamine does to your body. And screens have a really powerful relationship with dopamine. So using the example of Times Table Rockstars, you are right. You see immediately how well you've done. You get that feedback, but it's also plotted on really great graphs. You compare to your peers. You show how well you've done. There's all sorts of metrics that for many children that is really rewarding, and wants to get them doing it again to improve their score. It's a powerful mechanism. The difference with screens in general is that they operate on not just an immediate reward system. The psychological term is a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? I don't think any software advertises that. But yes, a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. It very much like a slot machine, how it works. Essentially, it means you get a release of dopamine, not just when you get the reward, like when you've won something or you've achieved something, but in anticipation of it, when you think it's coming and you know something good is going to happen. So it creates what we call a dopamine loop. It's essentially highly regulating, which is why I think it works very well for neurodivergent children. But in the short term, it's exceptionally good and soothing. It makes you feel good. You feel like things are going really well, that things are really happy. Great. But in the longer term, too much of it can actually be really dysregulating, because it just raises your threshold for stimulation. So, for example, real life things, reading, making something, building a brilliant Lego set, all of those tasks, they give you that dopamine, but at a lower frequency than screens do. So it essentially makes them feel boring or understimulating by comparison.
And that's when we talk about that social media addiction. We're not really addicted to a screen. We're addicted to the dopamine that it gives us.
Yes, or the dopamine that you think or anticipate you're going to be getting. So that's why you find that people are going into events and taking photos, not for the memory of it, but for the possibility of sharing it, with the possibility of getting feedback on how great that share is.
Yes, and that's one of the bits I absolutely hate. The idea of, just again, my generation being in the moment, enjoying it, just standing there and going, wow. I think that is lost on the current generation because they're chasing these dopamine things. And if you go to a concert, generally, I went to a concert with my daughter last year, which was to TV Girl, and it's a real mixed range of audience, but there were people who are more or less just there to get a photo, to get that post right on their social media channels, to post it, and then they're looking for the reactions during the concert.
Yeah. How sad.
And on one hand, I'm going, on one hand, literally, I'm going, it was just like, there's an experience here that was amazing. It was a really good concert. Absolutely loved it. Really right experience with my daughter. So that's a nice bonding bit. And the two people looked like they weren't enjoying themselves because they're waiting for a certain song to get the right audio to hit those things. And it was almost like they're in a business meeting. They're in a strategy thing, waiting for the right moments. And it might be, as you said, that actually being there, they needed more dopamine than just being there. And the social media gave them that. But it meant that real world experience, I feel, from my generation's point of view, that they completely missed out.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've seen it many times. You see it in all sorts of places. In restaurants, people go to the restaurant and the important factor is taking the picture of the food rather than the food itself. There's actually a restaurant, I think, I don't know if it's London or somewhere, where there's a no phones policy. So you're not even allowed to take a phone in. So which is great on the one hand, that people can then experience that really immersive setting. But I think they found that they're struggling because there isn't the social media push that you get with the Instagram pictures and the social media advertising. So people are trying to find ways through it. But yep, I think many people would sit here listening and saying, yeah, we recognise these circumstances.
So is there, going back to good and bad, is there good screen time? Is there bad screen time?
Yeah.
I know we're really simplifying it.
You're right. That is simplifying it in a way that essentially doesn't fit with the science, which says screens are black or white. It's one or the other. But essentially, we need to get the right balance, like that N-shaped curve that we talked about. So too little screen time, not enough of it, can actually lead to lower well-being in older children in particular. So there's the social exclusion, there's that missed cultural connection, that cultural currency. But on the opposite side, too much displaces sleep, it displaces movement, it displaces activities. So we have to get that middle, moderate use. That's the good screen time, to use that terminology, is getting it just right. And that sort of use would be the active screen time use. So coding, building in Minecraft, FaceTiming family. It's something where you are doing something active. It's where you're engaged with something. It is not the infinite scroll, the doom scrolling, the TikTok shorts, the TikTok videos, the YouTube shorts. I'm using this terminology as if I actually know what any of that means. But essentially, it's the zoning out. That we all do it. We've all found ourselves sat looking at our phones for much more time than we ever anticipated. That's particularly bad for children and young people.
So on that one, again, most of the stuff, again, interactive, using your brain, I would probably throw in, if you can go watch Discovery Channel or snips from that, almost like that learning aspect. But I think the interactive, where you are responding, is instantly going to be elevating, but you can learn.
Yeah.
Short form is the easily most accessible. It's the instant dopamine hit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also going to throw in there, because it is a thing that I think a lot of adults do, is scrolling through Netflix, because it's almost like, I have to sit on this sofa with the TV on. I have to find something to watch. And I think you're then stuck in this, almost like you know it's going to be rubbish. You've already hit the good stuff that everyone's recommended. You're now trying to find something to watch, and you're more or less turning into Netflix into doom scrolling, where you're trying to find something to watch. And then you finally watch something which you're not that into, so you go to your phone. And again, I do say as adults, we've kind of got stuck to our sofas, on our phones in the living room, moaning about our children being on their screens.
Absolutely spot on. Now, of course, it's not going to be the case for lots of people, but yes, that is a common pattern. And I talk about this personally as well. I know completely that I was sat with my wife watching something great on TV or Netflix or whatever it is, and I just reach, without even thinking, to my phone and start looking at why. Like, what's the function of that? And I think that is because my brain craved at that time more dopamine that potentially wasn't coming from the program on Netflix, which it should have done, but I might be expecting much more. Now, we as adults can navigate this a lot of the time, not always. Children, again, find this so much more difficult, and which is why they need more and more, and you can find them falling into these patterns of much more unhealthy or the bad screen time that we talked about.
And I think that as adults, like it or not, we are modelling that behaviour.
Yeah.
If we are not accessible because we're watching TV, we're on our phones, we're walking down the path, whatever, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, whatever your excuse is, whatever your actual reason, sometimes it is an excuse, sometimes I am doing work, I'm doing this. But if you're constantly on your phone, then to be grown up, you spend time on your phone. That's what being grown up means. That's what you're telling your children. You're not allowed your phone. Oh, when I grow up, I'm allowed to be on my phone all the time. That is the message we are giving. So whether you're cooking dinner while buying something or checking a recipe, you may have to explicitly tell your children, oh, I'm just checking up a recipe. I'm just sorting this out. I'm just paying for your school lunches. Whatever, almost like telling them that you're not just on social media, you're doing it for a specific function. But we are modelling, whether you like it or not, we are teaching our children screens are great.
Yeah. We absolutely are, aren't we? And it applies in every aspect of life. And so I went to a restaurant the other week with my kids, and you had to order through a QR code that was on the table. So I'm at a place to be with my children, and I'm forced to then order through my phone. So my phone comes out. I'm rubbish at doing more than one thing at any one time. So I'm focusing on the ordering. They're obviously talking to me, and you're in that position. But similarly, I know I come home from work and my phone's still binging and ringing, and I'm trying to deal with that. Whereas actually, it's giving the wrong messages. Absolutely giving the wrong messages. I would completely agree with you.
So again, going back to screen time is bad, how do I manage my child's screen time? We've kind of talked about the reason it attracts, but is this screen time thing more of, again, we said it's more of the effect, and dopamine is a big part of it, but is it a case of, and again, you get into the idea of boredom is good, and there is that, but is it a case of they are bored? And because that's the thing, I find dopamine, the social media is a really easy thing to fall into. If I wake up in the morning, I'm not going to go, what am I going to do today? Social media. I'm not going to choose that, but I'll wake up, I might do some scrolling in bed or whatever. I'll get up, I'll walk downstairs, and what do I feel like? And as an adult, I've got lots of choices. But if I wake up and I'm a kid and my parents are busy, my choices are limited, and I might literally be going, what choices do I have? And screen time becomes the only one I can really think of.
Yeah.
So to me, there's a big bit about, well, what else is there? What is it the child can do that isn't that? What are you encouraging? And are you, and again, so many variables on whether how much this is possible, is are you present?
Yes. Or you're explaining this in absolutely the right terms here. But I would actually go, just to go back one step here. So yes, you wake up in the morning. No one thinks, oh, I'm just going to go and look on social media. We are primed to do it for all the reasons that we talked about before. That anything on screens, every single bit about it has been developed and designed to make you go to it, to bring you into it. And essentially, engineers have overridden your impulse control by bringing you towards it. And so it's not even a conscious thing. We're living in that world now. So that's one side of it. But actually, the feelings side, children's emotions, and adults as well, but my specialism is particularly in children here. I think children and young people use screens to manage uncomfortable feelings. Again, not always. There are many children out there where screens provide necessary regulation, but for lots of children, difficult feelings, be it boredom, yes, but also anxiety, overstimulation, stress, frustration, avoidance of something, whatever it might be, screens provide a brilliant response to it because screens are predictable. Predictability is exceptionally important for well-being. Screens give you control and autonomy, and this is in a world where adults rule, adults have the autonomy, and it's almost numbing in a way because it can turn down that sensory overload from the world around you. You can focus on the one particular thing. And the last part to add to it is the level of competence. children and young people from a very young age are exceptionally competent on all things screen related without being taught by us. They've learned this themselves. So you add those things together, it makes a brilliant tool for managing difficult feelings. I think screens have become the main tool for emotional regulation in children. I wouldn't frame it as addiction. It's a coping strategy, not necessarily a helpful one, but that's how I see it.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think for me, it's one of the things when I know again, I think it's correct to be overstimulated, but you know, when you've just got loads going on and you almost like, and somebody will say, go for a walk, it's really good, and talks about all the merits. Problem is yes, there is that merit, but my head is still wandering. My head is still on that walk. My head needs something. And I find that with social media, it gives my head enough that almost like part of me, my conscious part's distracted, my subconscious can slowly work through and churn and bring that down. It's helping me regulate. And again, I don't have to do anything for it. I'm not having to put any effort in. I'm not having to go set something up or go and put effort in. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And the ease of it. Yeah, completely. And who wouldn't choose that? So you're right. When we get overwhelmed by whatever it might be, the best possible thing you can do is deal with that overwhelm in the best possible ways, such as go outside and get some fresh air, get involved with some sports, have a social event, go and see a family member, whatever it might be that allows you to do something that helps you to deal with those feelings. The screen is the quick and easy way of pressing pause, essentially, to cope with it, and that's become normalized. In fact, on that note, there was a research paper that was published fairly recently that was all about the mental health cost of social media. And it was this comes from years of debate saying social media is harmful for our mental health. It causes children to be harmed from a mental health perspective. And I'm sure that the main outcome of this research was not what everybody expected. It did not say social media causes harm. What it actually said is it makes no difference from a mental health point of view. But from a psychological point of view, what social media use does do is it stops you from then doing all the other things that cause mental health benefits. So every hour on a screen essentially is an hour not spent exercising or socializing or sleeping or being with friends, whatever it might be. So my view would be that the screen or the social media itself is not toxic. It's that it stops you from doing all the other things that we know are much better.
And on that is an interesting thing because I love tech. I was almost like born 79. But my dad used to work for IBM. We had tech in the house. I was playing PC games. I was playing whatever. And I would be in that thing playing 4, 5, 6 hours of gaming at a time in the early 90s. I was absolutely 100% locked in and gaming on that PC and have done gaming all through my life. So it'd be very... I cannot tell my children not to do it. And I've always said to them, I much prefer interactive games. And whether you're doing Minecraft, you're building something, you have to go you're doing resource management, you're monitoring lots of different things and you're working out what's the best way of dealing with this or what's the probability. You're doing all this maths and other stuff in your head, whether you know it or not, but you're doing it all. So I will always go for that. And obviously, we're also on social media. I've online communities, things like that, big part of my life. But you've got to help your children see exactly what you were saying. That actually, yes, it is really easy to pick up, but at what cost? And and you've almost got to point out that the algorithms are designed to keep them on there every day and keep returning. So my daughter used to do something called Be Real. I don't know if you know that one.
Oh, no, I've not heard that one.
It's you take a photo and it takes a photo from your front and your rear camera at the same time. So it's sort of like you can't make it look pretty and have a perfect life. It will show you what the reality is as well. But the alarm will go off every day and you've got 15 minutes. Now everyone has to post, so it's a daily thing. It keeps you coming back, and you get streaks, and there's streaks in Snapchat and stuff, which just keeps you coming back. And you do actually, as a parent, you have to talk about this and what it's doing and the anxiety these streaks cause if they're going on a sleepover or it's a school residential trip. Who's going to keep their streaks alive? And that anxiety inducing and how important it is. But one of the things I've done, and I've mentioned this a couple of times in the podcast, at the end of the Easter holidays, at the end of the summer holidays, I always ask my kid, at mealtime I'll sit down, what was the best part of the summer? What did you enjoy? And they would have like an hour-long conversation about what we all loved, what was the best bit is our holiday or whatever. And then right at the end, I will say, not one of you mentioned time on a computer. Not one of you mentioned something that happened on social media. Not one of you mentioned a TV program you watched on your iPad. Everything you mentioned were the best bits were in the real world.
Yeah.
And you really do, I think, for young children, have to be that blunt. And I talk to them very much that social media will fill time. It will be average. But your best ever will always be in the real world with people. Mm-hmm. And I think as adults, we can't just rely on them to know. They don't have that perspective. We've got to say it.
Yeah, completely. Let's hope that your kids don't listen to this podcast, because now they know how to beat that summer conversation. But you're absolutely right. It's no one looks back and says the best part of that trip or the best part of the holiday was scrolling on TikTok. The best part is the connection, the interaction with other people. So that will always remain. We as adults and as parents have to guide our children and help them to navigate that setup.
And interesting, you'll have someone go, when I was a kid, I think I rode 200 miles every summer on my bike. We were out every day from sunrise to sunset, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we only had 4 TV channels. And if you wanted to watch kids' TV on a Saturday, it was like 6:30 till 10:30. Then it was like horse racing and golf and something else really boring. And 5:25 would be the A-Team or something, or Knight Rider coming on, and it would be a couple of hours.
Yeah.
There was nothing. You literally would be like, you would search for all 4 channels and watch some really rubbish films. But in the end, you got bored and you went out. So we didn't go out because it was the best thing. We went out because there was nothing else.
Yes.
And I wonder if you threw the internet back at us back then, would we do exactly the same as this generation? And I'm 99.9% sure we would not be doing all the things we did if we had the internet.
Of course, the amount of content that's out there is astronomical for it. Because yes, you're right. It's no longer 4 channels, is it? It's not only is it 850 channels here in the UK, but you can access every channel from the whole world now if you want. And then even if there's nothing on that, then you've got Netflix and Disney and Prime and all of this content. So,
but also you also have YouTube, where you have these content creators. So whatever your interest, there will be 50, 100 people making good quality, a lot of the time content, perfect for your interest.
Yeah. And the algorithms know that you're interested, so you're bombarded with this, making you want to see it more. So it's not being on it makes you feel like you're missing out, which goes all the way back to that dopamine, that feeling like you need to get back onto it to feel better again. So it's a loop that will keep you in it until we find ways around it.
So I think coming all the way back to, is screen time bad or good? And obviously probably why people come to you, because they're obviously struggling with something and screen time becomes a focus. And again, we've talked about how stuff like Minecraft is kind of great fun. There's a lot going on. And to me, that's the happy middle ground. If you go left, you're going to go into the just consuming and scrolling, half asleep in a trance. If you go right, you end up in the Fortnite and the competitive gaming zone, which is also a dangerous zone, isn't it?
Can be.
And that's where I think a lot of parents struggle, because their child is playing these competitive games and maybe not winning when they feel they should.
Yep.
And rage quitting and throwing controllers. And that's, do you have a lot of that? Is that kind of a lot of your work is children in that zone, or?
That's exactly right. I mean, it's from children from all those zones, most certainly, but it's for, typically it is where we meet families who have tried all the different approaches that have been recommended to them when it comes to screens. Our job as psychologists is not like super nanny. We don't just turn around and say, you need to say this and your children will therefore do that. You know, this is not, that's not how it works, is it? Actually, what reason why families come to see a psychologist is that they've tried all the things that either they thought were the right things to do, or the way that they were parented themselves, or that they've read the books or the guidebooks or the blogs or whatever else it is, and it's still not working. And that not working means children are distressed. Children can't deal with difficult circumstances. The family are tiptoeing around on eggshells. There is something that means life is not sustainable at that level, and what can we do? And our job, as I said, is not to say, oh, you just need to do this, because obviously everybody has tried that already. It's to take the step back and say, why is it not working? What's the function of that screen time? What is it doing? And when you have that understanding, you're in a much better place to be able to say, right, now we can tweak this and tailor this and see what we can do. And so we want to think about, why is a child using a screen so much? Is it because they can't tolerate the real world outside of it? Because it's too overwhelming and stimulating? Maybe schoolwork is just too difficult. Maybe it's too easy. Maybe socially there are challenges going on. You know, so we're starting to look at all the different factors here that say, what's pushing you to a world that is an easier and feels a happier place to be? And that's where we can try and make those changes.
That's interesting. There is, I can never remember, I'm going to find it. I'm going to get my phone out and find it. There's an amazing story of a Norwegian boy, and it's been made into a documentary on Netflix. See, again, straight away, I'm using my phone, recommending a documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, but what a perfect example here, Dale, that you've got this situation where you struggle to remember something as a typical conversation, and the easiest, quickest thing to do is to go straight to your phone, which is fine. That is how we get information now. Or you could ask Google or Alexa or all the AI bots now that do all that for you, and you'll have that answer immediately. The risk here is that the people who have used the technology, who've developed this technology, know that you're going to be looking at your phone for more and now want you to use it even longer. So I bet when you picked up your phone, you might have just caught a glimpse of a notification from perhaps another app, or you would have just seen that you had missed something from somewhere. So you'll now be thinking, I need to deal with that. And if we weren't in this situation, you could very easily now just be getting your phone out and just now scrolling. And before you know it, you're on TikTok.
You are. So, the documentary to watch is an hour and 46 minutes. It's called The Remarkable Life of Ibelin. I can't remember exactly how you pronounce it. And it's a documentary you watch in two halves. So the first one is about this boy with... I don't know if it's motor neuron disease, but complex physical difficulties. It's a degenerative condition. Mm-hmm. He has, so they go to the beach, he's in a wheelchair, cannot move, in a motorised, watches everyone, and then his life's going down. He has full-time carers, and he just goes on. He won't go out, he won't leave, he won't do anything, and eventually he dies, and it's really sad. Only problem is it's at that point, as he dies, his family find out the real story.
Okay.
And that's the second half of the documentary. And when you said that the world outside is, you can't cope. Mm-hmm. to me, there's one bit of it can't cope, and there's also how you're seen. And again, gaming, you can be your character in a game, especially in an online game. You can be someone, and people take you for only what they see from that character. So it's a really amazing story of actually someone existing in the physical world and somebody existing in the digital world, making friends around the world. And so if you're against gaming, go watch that, and it will hopefully help people understand there are some amazing games out there. And then you have, and I'm not saying Fortnite's not great, it's the impact on your child. And for me, one of the things I've had with my children, if I say you've only got 10 minutes or 15 more minutes, and they can't cope with them coming off the game, then they can't play the game.
Interesting. Yeah. But on the surface, you're absolutely right. You know, and I've done it as well. We've said to our kids that these are the expectations that we hold as parents, and you will fall into it. Essentially, what that approach fails to address is the impact of transitions. And transitions are so important for children and adults, as we've seen for everything so far, but particularly for children, where you go from one situation to another. And it can be big transitions, like from outside to bedtime, or the car to school, for example. But even those micro transitions, such as turning off your iPad and putting it down. So you're essentially moving from one set of circumstances to another. And sometimes that change has a massive hit on our systems, particularly the dopamine systems. So if you're engaged in screen time, doing whatever it is that you're doing, as we've discovered, it's high dopamine on that variable ratio. You're getting this feeling, you know it's coming, which is why you want to look at it more, and suddenly it gets switched off because that's your time limit. You have this sudden crash, and you don't just go back to a baseline level of dopamine, you fall beneath it. You're in a dopamine deficit, so you now need to get more of it, and you can't get it from screens because Dad kindly has put a time limit on the iPads. But actually, how do children respond to that? Emotional dysregulation. And that's when you see the shouting, screaming, the swearing, the throwing the remotes, whatever it might be, because it's an immediate response to a very dysregulating set of circumstances.
So basically they're communicating, I don't know how to manage this transition. I don't know what I should be doing when I put my iPad down. That's what they're communicating as an adult. Our job isn't to then butt heads with them and say you will do as you're told. Our job is to help them learn how to do that transition, to support them.
Exactly. That's the best way you can do this. Now, that's the theory. In the real world, I, as a clinical psychologist who've just recommended gradual transitions, being with children to help them transition, bridge that gap between one activity to another. Yesterday, I shouted up from the bottom of the stairs, "Get off that bloody thing!" Now, did that work? No. Did I know it wouldn't work? Yes. Did I still do it? Yes. And so I'm in this situation of finding even myself failing to do what is best, because it's such a difficult set of circumstances. But the reality should be that we help children to bridge that gap. So instead of the turn it off now, we have a gradual approach to it. Instead of giving a 5-minute countdown, give a realistic countdown. For example, you've got 2 more videos on TikTok. That is much more meaningful than 5 minutes. Sit next to your child and be with them whilst they're watching it. You might be watching rubbish, like Italian brain rots are the latest thing in our house. I've got no idea what that actually even means, but I'm sitting alongside, listening to my kids talking in this language that I don't understand, pretending that I'm interested in it, because I know that is bridging that gap. So I can now say, "Thanks so much for showing me. Come on, it's now time for dinner." So we've gradually bridged that gap to remove the distress the transition can cause.
That 5 minute, you got 5 minutes. It's just such a random time frame we've chosen. Apart from it's a nice, simple, on a clock, 5 minutes, easy to measure. But most online game, especially with the competitive ones are 10 minutes with some stuff. So in reality, you can't say 5 because they're going to be in the middle. They're already part way through. It just won't work. So changing that 5 to 15 and basically saying if you're already in a game, you don't start another.
Yeah.
You're allowing them to finish that activity at a point that won't cause them dysregulation because they're going to get booted and lose whatever by leaving a game early or whatever. Having that understanding that you're meeting in the middle ground, that actually I want you off, but I've got to take it into consideration of when would be a good time for you. And it's the same as if we shout dinner and then we expect everyone to jump. Well, if they're in the middle of a game, they're not going to jump. And if you're then angry at them, well, they're like, well, I can't leave the game because I'll lose whatever it is in that game because I left the game. I have to. So again, I give 15-minute dinner warnings. And the other thing, touching on what you said, my child was struggling to understand the difference between shouting at someone and raising my voice so that when I'm at the bottom of the stairs and they're in their room, I'm raising it so they can hear me. I'm not shouting at them. And my children didn't get the difference. So what I'd also learned to do, and it helps me get my steps in, is I now walk up and give a face-to-face 15-minute warning.
Yeah.
And that is, it's all on me. I've taken them into consideration. I have a hugely improved outcome from those situations, to the point my daughter is often down before dinner and we have a lovely chat as we're serving dinner.
That's so wonderful to hear.
And all that takes is me giving a longer warning, me going up there and saying it face to face. They know I'm not upset or anything. I'm not shouting at them. It's a nice considered. And even sometimes I'll walk and I have to wait for them to maybe knock off on a headphone. Just me taking their own feelings into account when I'm trying to get what I want. Huge difference.
Yeah. And it's you've tapped into every area that we know is difficult for children, and you've found a way of bridging that gap. That's not going to say that process is going to work every single time,
No.
but most certainly you've eased that bridge. When you were telling me the story, I was smiling because I did this just the other week, not with my kids, with my wife. And I was like, I was at the bottom of the stairs and I said something, and she's like, "Why are you shouting?" And I'm not shouting. You're just upstairs and I'm downstairs. So I want you to be able to hear it. Don't shout it. Oh, we turned into this whole ding dong unnecessarily. But the whole point here with children is you've identified that just giving that generic 5 minutes left does not work on any level. So you've found all ways around it. And you might not even be aware of the psychological principles behind it. That there is something known as, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I think it's the Zeigarnik effect. So this is how I've always pronounced it. The Zeigarnik effect is essentially saying humans are much better at remembering unfinished tasks than finished tasks. So if you've not completed something, we're actually much better at knowing it still needs to be done. So if you ask your child to stop a game mid-game, that's where their brain's going to be at, not what's coming next. So the 5-minute instruction essentially forces a child to quit in the middle of a mission or the middle of a game, which actually will cause psychological distress, because it's not because they're addicted, but simply because their brain wants closure. So approaching it in the way of saying, let's finish this off, or let's watch it together and then we'll go downstairs, you've actually dealt with the psychological principle here, perhaps without realizing it. But then the other part to it is you're then saying, let's go downstairs and have some food, or let's go downstairs and talk. Actually, the going downstairs and food bit, the going downstairs and talk bit, is a potential dopamine hit. So yes, they might lose it from the screen, but you're saying this is what's coming next. So that's something to look forward to, and it's actually allowing you to make that process much more manageable. all without giving this generic, 5 minutes left, which essentially means nothing to a child.
And the last thing, just to mention to those parents who have never played an online competitive game, whether it's Fortnite, Rocket League, Paladins, Valorant, whatever game it is, if you leave partway through a game, you are punished within the game.
Right.
Because if you're playing against someone else and it's a 2-on-2, and then you just leave, that's not fair for the other 3 players. So if you leave, the game will punish you. And it might be that when you come back, I think one of the games, if you come back, you cannot play for an hour.
Oh, so it blocks you. Goodness me.
So not only do you have that bit, but so basically what you're saying is, when you're saying 5 minutes, what you're really saying is, I've got to kick the game, I'm going to get punished, and after dinner, even though you're allowing me, I now cannot play this game for an hour, and that screen is going to taunt me with a countdown. And I think as adults, and there's a really great meme I saw, this is the last generation who are going to have to explain you cannot pause an online game.
Yeah.
And there's loads of little things that the rules is used to right at the beginning, how much the world has changed. The games, they're not playing Chucky Egg where they can just hit pause. They're not playing some other random game they can just hit pause like in Sonic. If it's an online game, it cannot be paused.
Yeah. Real time.
So again, you're giving them a 15-minute warning, they can fit that in and they can find their way. And it is so much better. It's that meeting in the middle rather than being that authoritarian, which is actually going to negatively impact your child.
It can do, certainly. Fascinating.
Okay, I did not realise we've got to 50 minutes already in our conversation. But I'm glad, and it's interesting, I'm glad. Screen time isn't bad. Too little bad, too much bad. The middle bit, great-ish. But it's what you're doing within that and your reason for what you're doing. It's important for us parents to make the real world interesting so that the screen isn't their only choice. And that means we need to be present, which can be a challenge. And we need to lead by example. So if we want our children to be on the phone less, we need to be on our phone less and be seen being. So it's not literally, if they're not there, be on your phone if you really need it. But while they're there, your phone should be down and probably face down so you're not seeing those notifications.
Yes.
Anything else to add?
Don't have a phone. No, it's you're absolutely right. It's a good summary, and the bit to keep in mind is that phones and screens will be used for different reasons for different families. I know we've not really had much of a chance to talk specifically about neurodivergence, and you mentioned it at the very beginning, but I work with many families where a child or a family member is neurodivergent and uses screens for very different reasons. And so many of the things that we've talked about today sometimes don't apply, whereas actually the general themes, I still think, do certainly apply. So this idea of transitions will have an impact. The idea of stimulation will certainly have an impact. It's just those children's brains will respond differently.
So shall we do a podcast on screen time and neurodivergence?
I think we've just agreed to do that without formally agreeing.
And also you touched on not having a phone. And again, if we go back to the bell curve, and this again might be another podcast. Should your child have a phone or not? Should it be a smartphone? Should it be a brick? And that is a whole conversation. And when should your child have a phone? Would that be a whole other podcast?
I think so. Because I really don't think there is a simple answer to this. Because my answer from a simple parenting perspective will be very different to that of somebody else's answer. I'd be interested in thinking of the psychology behind all of this.
So, just agreed to 2 more podcasts, which I'm looking forward to. So basically, So as a parent, don't just listen to the media. There was, I think, a Channel 4 documentary not long ago looking at screen time in kids. And I think some of the hosts, apparently, I haven't watched it because I knew I'd probably get angry about how simplistic it was.
Okay.
And I think some of the hosts realised partway through, so, wow, I've kind of been encouraging my child to use it. And they got so close to the answer, and then they went, I think we should ask mobile phone companies to block it or something. You're like, or be a parent. Or be a parent. You've just admitted that it was your use of phone and you're sharing that with them is what got them into it. And it was like, you were so close and then you went that way with it. It was like, no, we are parents, not adults, not authoritarian. We are there to help them learn. And one of the things you've got to help them again, which is coming down to, you can't tell them to do something. You've got to help them understand. And also, what's the alternative to the screen?
Yes.
Because if you're not there offering to bake with them, if you're not there offering to do this with them, if you're not there helping them do another activity to get that dopamine, they're going to go back to that screen.
Yes.
And that sounds so simple, doesn't it? But we're all adults and very busy.
I know. This is the real world. So the theory is absolutely spot on. The reality is much more tricky, and that's where psychologists are able to help.
And again, if we go to back when I was young, most families had one parent working.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, there was always a parent around to do activities, to go to the park, to do this, to go here, to take you to a friend's. There was always lots of other options. Now we have two parents working. Most of those options are gone.
Yeah. In a world where screens dominate and technology dominates. So add it all together, I would agree with you.
And for those who also don't know, back in my day, playing GoldenEye on the N64 or playing on the old Commodore 64, whatever it was, you had split screens. You have 4 on a screen. You could race side by side with your friend in 2 different cars on the same screen. I don't know of many or any games which now offer multiple player in the same location.
Yeah.
Even if their friend came over, they would have to bring another PlayStation and another TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the technology, everything is going against that face-to-face friendship interaction, because the games are pushing them to be doing it remotely. And that's a whole other conversation, but that's not. We've come to the end. I'm going to wrap it up. So yes, thank you for coming to the show today. Really enjoyed it. I always like finding out, not that I'm doing the right thing, like no, but I often I kind of find something which works and someone says, oh, this is the reason it works. There's a psychological principle you're following, which I have absolutely no idea about. So what was it called again?
The Zeigarnik principle.
The Zeigarnik.
Effect.
I'm going to look that up as soon as I finish, and not on my phone. Not on a book either,
ask
on my
Google,
computer.
Right. Yeah. Excellent.
So we'll be putting links to the Cape Psychology website and all the social medias channels as well, and you'll find those on our website. Or also wherever you listen to the podcast. So thank you for listening to the show. If you haven't subscribed already, click on that subscribe button. And if you don't know where you can subscribe on our website, there's loads of links to the different places. And if you want to get in touch, let us know your thoughts, suggest topics or anything else, please message us via social media or send an email to hello@thesencast.com. And if you've enjoyed the Zencast, why not look into Zencast Sessions, our online CPD that you can purchase for your school. Each session is £10, but it is yours forever, so you can build up a library of CPD around Zen that everyone in your school can access. We also run our free Send briefings twice a year, designed to keep everyone up to date with the changes going on in the world of Send. Head over to the Zencast website to find out more about Zencast sessions, and you'll also find a link in the show notes as well. So thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Zencast. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me too.
Bye, everyone.